Building a dynamic universe. This was the second to last presentation at the CitizenCon opening day stream, right before the final keynote. This was the long-awaited, especially in my world, long-awaited additional information about the underlying economy in Star Citizen. I'd like to dig in a little bit on the details of the presentation and also throw out a few suggestions where I think maybe they could possibly take it a little bit further, just to open up a much wider plethora, a much wider, much more dynamic economy. Have some thoughts. Again, this is my old Star Wars Galaxies mentality kind of coming into play here, but they're definitely on the right track. Tony Zervak, what a beast! The director of the Persistent Universe took control of that presentation. He was a cool cat. I love this guy. You can tell by his, I want to see it fall. He made a change and he's like, oh, go back, I want to see it fall. You can tell that this guy is proud of this. You can tell he's worked hard on it, and you can also tell by the folks, presumably whoever's trying to put the final keynote speech into place, like push these guys off the stage. He's like, let's leave it up to the crowd. What do you guys want to see? You can tell that he definitely wanted to show this off and he was excited about it. 2 points for Tony Zervak. He was kind of the man of the hour. He did a great job leading that presentation. Jake, you did pretty good on the keyboard as well too. In you and your team, you're the economy designer. I'm sure you guys played a big part in this. So overall, they did a great job of presenting to us Quantum, the tool that they're using to kind of simulate various, the locational kind of handle locational aspects of real-time data, and also simulate possible economic data and economic play, so to speak. Right off the bat, this tool, they already have this built, and I understand it's probably in its infancy, but various forms of this tool could very easily be used throughout the game. First, how about a form of Quantum for bounty hunters? This could be a tool, in-game tool that is perhaps activated by, a tool you buy or a skill you get, and you can actually do some real-time geolocating. Again, you can't see everybody, but maybe there's some mechanism where you can actually locate people, or you can hire someone to, put a tracker on somebody, or, maybe there is a tracker if it's an NPC. Anyway, some sort of tool, this kind of tool would be kind of interesting built into the game where you can kind of real-time, where you can kind of see locational for missions as well, have that kind of built in. That would be really kind of cool. Traders, Quantum for traders. Again, skill activated or tool activated. They give them access to some of these real-time data feeds. And again, all these could maybe be third-party data feeds that they purchase. Maybe there's a data feed that they buy into in the game that gives them access to the pricing of a certain system, or maybe they earn it, or maybe they have to visit a planet and go to a certain hub to download the actual data to tap into it. Whatever the requirements are, have this tool for traders so they can in real time kind of tap into that. So not only can they send their organizations out and recommend certain areas, they can also, for instance, prevent players from entering really valuable areas, to avoid pirates and stuff like that. A lot of cool potential there. If you open up those pricing tools for traders, there's a lot of cool stuff that could be done there. Along the same lines as bounty hunters, have some sort of surveying, mining. Use that as an interface for me selling data, right? So I'm a player, NPC, or even a real player. I can sell you locational data. Boom, and it shows and it pops up right on this the Quantum in-game Quantum map, so to speak. It makes me kind of wonder if Quantum is kind of a first step or a second step toward the actual real in-game mapping system that they're going to be building out. Marking locations. What's better than having those little red dots pop up? You buy, again, access to those little red dots for a certain mining location or a surveying location. It just makes it much more fun to kind of zoom in and out of the planets and rotate around and see where your actual goal is versus, kind of the current system out there right now. I actually had another note here, and it kind of plays off the trading aspect. It's university commodity tradings, right? So not even traders. Now, I'm not doing the runs, but maybe I just want to buy and sell data, so to speak, right? Maybe I just want to buy into certain commodities in a system, so I can just literally just facilitate that and make my money on that because I'm a master. This facilitates that if you open up those data feeds. Again, nothing comes for free. You have to go someplace, you have to download the data, you have to buy into third-party data feeds, or you have to buy it from info runners, or you have to buy it from a hub at a certain station. Whatever the case may be, There's different kinds of data sets that feed into this quantum system, which then facilitate the actual loops for these various professions. God, there's so much potential here. The next kind of area was revolving around the idea that the AI, the players can get involved in this economic system they're building, but largely the AI, or I shouldn't say AI, but NPC AI, will be called in to pick up the load when certain things start failing. I guess my main point here is, why not? Like, yeah, like maybe they do come into play, but why do we need to be afraid of extreme events? You know, like why not let things crash? You know, and I'm not saying they're not going to, but you know, don't be afraid to have these big crashes, because that's going to give you like, oh, it's going to give you the emergent gameplay, like people, you know, changing up, doing certain things to adjust for, you know, the prices going up and down, and it's not to say that has to happen all the time, but let these events happen sometimes. Let those crashes happen. Don't always call. My recommendation, I guess, is don't always call the NPCs in to kind of fill in the holes right away, or even after a while. Maybe they can make actual player events out of it. Maybe it's something that the devs or whoever can set up events around. Like this one system is so low on this, you know, this massive transports, you know, bringing in a load of you know, aluminum to a certain factory, and it's massive. Like it's like 100-player event or something like that. Like they could actually build events around these big kind of extreme events, so to speak, these crashes. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with NPCs taking total control. I know Chris has said in the past that it's largely going to be driven by, this economy is going to be driven by AI, but I'd make the argument that it doesn't have to be totally driven. You know, let things get chaotic from time to time, but it's going to just bring out a hell of a lot more emergent gameplay. Another note on the NPCs, and again, they were saying like, okay, you don't need to calculate their, you know, their wants and their needs and their ships and everything they're doing, because they're largely, these NPCs are going to be working behind the scenes, so to speak, with the exception being ones that actually kind of create missions or create to-dos for players. But I guess my argument to that is, and as long as the bandwidth works for it and there's no big latency hits, like why not release 5 to 10% of the NPCs into the real world instead of having them just work behind the scenes? And this is my interpretation, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but why not release just NPCs that are part of the predictable environments? I forget what they call them, the predictive areas. I forgot what the name of them was, but those, why not release like 5 to 10%, you know, if they're in there, you know, and there happens to be, you know, some of these NPCs that are being calculated to go through there, why not offer it up? You know, if you just leave them alone, nothing's going to happen, right? There's no NPC pirates are going to get those traders, you know, they're just delivering their aluminum. But why not have a player just be able to kill them and take his stuff, you know, just like in that, all these little events kind of affect, again, the economy in very small ways. So I guess the argument there is to, and this is only if they're not planning it already, is to actually visibly produce, you know, maybe 5, 10, 15, 20% of these NPCs in the actual real world, provided that people actually cross paths with them. And it's just going to add to more like, hey, what are you doing? You know, oh wow, these guys are carrying a load of aluminum. Let's rob them. And that's going to affect a little bit. It's going to affect the prices in Stanton's system, because it was a big, you know, haul for whatever reason, right? Not so much to crash it, but maybe why not let the players affect things a little bit like that? Just a thought. The next kind of area they were talking about was like the factories and like manipulating factories and stuff like that. And my mind blew up in this area because there's so much potential here. And this all revolves around the fact of, please make sure the factories exist, or whatever other entity that's being delivered, right? Let me go to a factory. Let me go there with a group of people, and let me maybe pick off some of the, you know, the delivery guys on their way to the factory, you know, as they're dropping stuff off, you know. And it's not to say I can get away with it, right? Maybe it's like a group event, and, you know, I'm going to get a crime stat, and there's going to be security probably in the area. But, you know, why not have that, an actual entity that you could potentially interact and maybe get away with some goods, you know? Have a bunch of people draw the pirates away, or draw the security away, and you have one of the fast ships come in and try to steal stuff. I don't know. But just those things, like actually have those things exist, where the endpoints of all these trading, these economic hubs, so to speak. So the factories are there, make sure they exist, and maybe maybe even like he was talking about the workers and the miners. Like, I don't know, maybe there's shifts, you know, maybe you can pick off some of the miners on their shifts, and that affects pay, you know, certain pay rates at a certain factory. Point being, there's different things you can do at the actual economic mode to actually impact things, right? There's for instance, killing some of the workers might affect, you know, the economic balances between that economic node and the other economic nodes, you know. My organization lives out of this one system, you know, and we want factory rates to rise. Again, this could tie back into like one of the earlier ideas with the commodity trading professions, so to speak. You know, like I'm purposely, you know, it's not to say you can really massively break the system, but maybe I could do stuff to my organization can kind of push certain things, events that happen in the real world. They can delay a couple shipments. They can kill some of the workers. They can, you know, they can steal some of the power plants that they're making at the factory on the way out. Whatever that is, it, you know, it's basically like it's fraud, right? Like, but you can actually like make some money in the commodity trading by, you know, investing in something, or maybe security, or not investing in something, selling stocks and having that happen, and then, you know, the price drops and then you buy in at low prices. Anyway, there's that kind of manipulation that's really kind of enticing for sickos like me. Another thought was, you know, not only are there certain requirements for what they're building, and they could probably change those on the fly, like the actual ingredients, so to speak, lack of a better term, but the resources going into like a factory node, you know, maybe there's maintenance requirements too. Maybe they throw in, there's certain amounts of, there's certain things that have to be delivered real time in game, you know, but every 6 months or 3 months or 1 month, there's certain really special things that have to be brought into the factory for maintenance to keep it optimal and efficient. Maybe there's an emerging opportunity where a factory, once every month, there's an opportunity for players to deliver stuff to a factory, and there's an upgrade at the factory, right? They then produce higher quality output of whatever the product they're making is. And this kind of gets into my last thing, which is, again, this is where I'm really thinking they could take a step further here and really blow this thing out of the water. And yes, for those of you that are missing Star Wars Galaxies, there's a lot. This concept definitely comes from that, but at the same time, it also gives a purpose for crafters. It doesn't have the wow effect, you know. It doesn't have where everyone is creating the same stuff for the crafting portion. This allows personnel to, or crafters, traders, crafters really, to actually make unique stuff, or at least more valuable items than maybe some other folks in that profession can make. And this is, of course, production variances and allowing different quality inputs, and hopefully a big variance in the inputs, but a different quality inputs to go into the production line. So, and I'm going to give you a really crappy example, but for instance, if you have a factory producing power plants, and maybe I'm delivering aluminum, right? Aluminum to this factory. And this is where the extraction time variable in the demo kind of really interested me. So they can affect extraction time, which lengthens it, which makes it harder. But why not at the other end of that extraction time throw in a quality variable, right? It takes longer, but you're going to get, and I'm just going to use like a 1 to 100 scale just to make things simple, right? If you're able to extract something very quickly, the quality is probably going to be, let's say, anywhere from 1 to 30, right? For that resource. If it takes a little bit longer to extract, maybe it's harder to reach, whatever other environmental factors that requires a longer time to extract, then maybe it's like 30 to 70, right? And maybe the extreme situations, that's where you're getting in like a quality from like 70 to 100 for that particular resource, right? So think about what that does. You have all these resources you can bring in. Aluminum coming into the process has anywhere from a 1 to 100 quality, right? And that aluminum is directly going to affect, let's just say, the strength of the power supply. I forgot what they were building in the demo, but power supplies, I'll just call it. The quality of the power supply, right? And it's not just like a bad power supply, a good power supply, and a rare power supply. Like, that's not the kind of differentiation I'm talking, because that's no better than WoW or any other, you know, standard typical MMO. There's nothing unique about that for crafters. There's nothing appealing for crafters coming into that scenario. They've seen it, they've done it. That's not what they want. What really is required to bring in this whole group of estranged MMO players that are just yearning for this kind of very detailed economic game, is that quality difference, right? So I take in the aluminum that's 1 to 100, and I'm able to output a power supply that has, and it's not just like quality wise, like it could be literally output, right? So the quality of aluminum goes into the output of that power supply, and that power output is anywhere from 30 to 100 or 50 to 100. So there's a big enough range, right, where it's not necessarily a ridiculously more powerful power supply, but let's just say it adds, like, the difference between the lowest and the very highest possible power supply you can develop is, let's just say, 10% more powerful, right? It's not nothing that's going to, require nerfing, and it's not enough to really offset the balances, so to speak. It's really about being able to have the ability to create something just a little bit better that people will pay top dollar for. Crafters will become renowned for, master craftsmen that are able to just squeeze out that little bit extra that people are actually willing to pay for, which is a reason they go to there. People, and then crafters can make names for themselves. They can have stores. All that stuff opens up because there's levels. There's value for crafters to actually make a name for themselves. Hey, go to him because he can create power supplies that are going to give you about 2 to 3% more output. You don't need it. You could save a lot of money by just going regular, and you're not going to get that much performance gain. But if you really want it, boom, high tier guy over there, right? He can deliver that for you because he has good suppliers that are bringing good quality resources back in. That's the rant. And that's the ultimate goal. And it can get much more complicated, but at the very least, it's a little bit farther. It's a little bit more that they can take this, and it would just open up all sorts of avenues for emergent gameplay, all sorts of avenues for a much more complex economy. And they could still have it could still be backed by the NPCs. All these NPCs are bringing in various quality, resources, but it's nothing to say that, you can't introduce a little bit of a quality spectrum for all things, right? From resources to a component, and that component is built into a product, and that product is maybe used in a ship, and that ship is just ultimately 3, 4, 5% more effective in its speed, its thrust. Maybe there's all those components lead up to just a little bit better turning. Whatever that case may be, it's not enough where like someone is just so much more elite than someone else. Let's give that threshold a little bit of the endpoint, a little bit of room, so that you can distinguish yourself as a crafter and not just have, again, standard crafting. I built product A, everybody else is building product A. Let's flood the market with all the same stuff. It's not, absolutely not where they need to take this if they keep going forward with the crafting angle. But this is a hell of a start. This is a really good start, and the tools are in place to visualize this stuff. And that's what's really exciting about this whole thing. I was sitting there looking at that, and I was like, wow, I can visualize this coming together. And they're not talking about the quality stuff right now. They're very much focused on, getting the, economy loops up and running. But it's right there. I feel like it's right on the tip. If they just take a little bit farther, they're going to be opening themselves up to a much, much bigger player base. So that's my piece. I tried explaining it the best I could. Hope you guys followed me. If you guys have any questions, please let's talk about this, because this is the bread and butter for me, guys. This is game is coming together so very nicely. But again, this economy thing just that's what really sets me off, or gives me the hope. That's the white light for me and a lot of other folks at the end of this tunnel. I had a couple videos back in the day comparing this to Star Wars Galaxies, and I still believe this could be a home for Star Wars Galaxies players. This can be it. This can be the premier MMO for not only space flight aficionados, first person shooter folk, or this could also be your Civ players. This could be your Excel document lovers. This could be for the rest of us nerds that love dealing with math. This could be that game for everybody. And I'm telling you, if they knock this out of the park, this is gonna be the biggest game that's ever been made. All right, let's continue the conversation below. Hope you guys have a great week, great month, great year. This is a great CitizenCon, so excited for what is to come in the months and dare I say years ahead. All right, guys, stay safe.